Welcome back to High Top Sports, Oregon. And today we're talking about Dan Lanning, the effect he is having on college football, the effect he's having on Oregon, the effect that he is having on the Big Ten with them moving conferences. And we're going to bring in our insider, Mr. Derek, and we're going to break this thing down for you. Super excited. Go ahead, like and subscribe, and we're going to get you rocking and rolling. How you doing, bud?
Good, man. Excited to dig into Dan Lanning. I know Oregon fans absolutely love him, so I figured it's time we give the fans a little taste of what Dan's bringing to the program and to the national spotlight.
Absolutely. So, a guy that took over very recently, and definitely not a rebuild from the prior regime, right? Kind of got a kind of like what people say about Kirby Smart. Kind of got a race car. Just need the right coach to get the pit crew together so they could go win some races.
Yeah, I will say, people can say what they will about Mario Cristobal and kind of how he left the program at that point, but in reality, he left the program with plenty of opportunity, plenty of talent, and had a pretty solid recruiting class at that time. Before he dipped out to Miami. And, one of the big keys to what Dan was able to do is very early on, he was able to hold on to much of that recruiting class, convince that class that he was the guy he's worth sticking it out for and, sharing his vision that he had with them. So that was definitely a big key early on for Dan kind of taking a step in the right direction.
Yeah, and we talk about some of the things that he has accomplished. I would say at this point, Oregon has always been a kind of a cool school, obviously with the location being, way up northwest, and obviously Nike being there, the uniforms, everybody kind of knows that bright green and yellow, but they needed the right guy to stay, and I feel like with Dan Lanning, that's the guy. Obviously, Bama was kind of some rumors that he was going to go there, which we've touched on, and then more recently there was some coaching moves, and again he kind of got thrown in the hot seat for that. But I think he's squared away at Oregon, and I feel like this might be the coach that might take you to the promised land.
That's definitely a hot button topic, particularly among rival fans. It always seems like the rival fans have the most to say about your program. But me personally, it feels a little bit different with Dan. We've had some wonderful coaches, between Chip Kelly, Mike Bellotti was great for the program. We don't talk about Willie Taggart, not so much, but Mario, let's be real, people have their opinions on him, but he was able to have some success on the field there. But it just feels different with Dan Lanning. It seems to be the demeanor on campus, just the overall player attitude when it comes to Dan Lanning and like the trajectory of the program. It seems like it's in a very healthy direction. He backs it up on the field for the most part. Obviously, with the recruiting class, like it tells you that these recruits are believing in the vision that he has too. And if you ask me right now, I would say, he's the one who I truly believe could lead Oregon to the coveted national championship for the first time. I know there's a lot of fans who've been waiting for it for their entire lifetime, myself included, not being very old, but still, we've never had the opportunity to see what that looks like. And I feel like he could absolutely be the man to do the job.
Yeah, and what I like about Lanning is not a guy that seems to wear on the fan base. You have some coaches. Obviously, I follow Florida pretty close, and Billy Napier's starting to wear on the Florida fans. They're not happy. Those guys really started about the same time, and another one, Coach Venable, feels like at Oklahoma that he's just kind of like Lanning, like just has done the right things, has made the right moves, and has feels like he just got there, and he's just like you almost forget about him. You're like, oh yeah, he's doing a good job up there, or he's doing a good job down there. But it's like one of those things where he's not very abrasive. He just feels like he loves that place, which he's quoted before, right? That he loves Eugene. The grass is pretty green, right?
The grass is damn green in Eugene. That's what they say, at least.
So just feels like a good guy for the program. Let's go ahead and get into the meat and potatoes here. His on field stuff here. So very successful in the last 2 years. Second best winning percentage in Oregon coaching history. Is that correct?
Yeah, yep. So he just trails Chip Kelly. I believe Chip's winning percentage is sitting somewhere around 86 to 87%. Dan Lanning's sitting at a solid 81.5%, which is absolutely phenomenal. And if you would have asked the Oregon fans after his first game, if we all remember that Georgia game, that 49-3 drubbing we took down in Atlanta, I think if we were told that, hey, you stick this out and this is what you're going to get eventually, we would all take that. And yeah, absolutely thrilled with the job he's done overall.
Yeah, and super high winning percentage. He's only has a couple losses, all to top 10 and above echelon teams. So you're not getting drugged by like um, a Middle Tennessee State, or a San Diego State or somebody like that, Delta State from wherever. Those four acronym teams, you're not getting drugged by people like those. So, some quality losses, and I don't think that people really give the right proper due respect to those quality of losses. And people are going to be like, well, quality of losses, what are you talking about? Listen, if your only losses are to top 10 teams, you're doing something right there.
Yeah, 100%. So if you really think about it, Dan Lanning has 5 losses in his career. 3 of those 5 losses come to teams that have either won the national championship or have been national championship runners up over the last 2 years. We're talking 60% of his losses. So say what you will. We hear it very frequently from UW fans, that you can't beat the rival. Obviously, I think the exception was he lost to Oregon State last year, and I think they were sitting at like 16 in the rankings at the time. That was a very winnable game. He lost. It happens. Don't get me wrong. He's not perfect on the field. Also, year one, first year being a head coach ever. So we're talking 5 total losses, and these losses are high quality losses. It's like, what can you do? There's going to be bumps in the road. There's a learning curve that has to take place, and he's absolutely going through it. I'm not going to sit here and claim that he's been absolutely perfect. I think if you hear Duck fans say that, they're lying to themselves. We know like some of the fourth down decisions that have cost us games in the past, that's unfortunate, but in reality, what it is it's a learning curve. He's addressed that, taken accountability for those type of things. And it's like, if you don't understand that heading forward with this program, that there's going to be adjustments made to those losses, like he learned from him. He talks about it all the time. Like, you lose, but you learn. And I think he truly takes that to heart. And I expect nothing but the highest of quality performances from him and his teams going forward.
Yeah, so we're going to stay on the field for just one more second. What's the knack on Oregon fans, if they have one, for Dan Lanning?
It's tough. Overall, as a fan base, I think they love Dan Lanning. He's a wonderful coach. Like you said, he's a very non-abrasive coach to the fan base overall. Seems to say all the right things, able to bring in the players, able to have a very solid on-field performance. Like, aside from that one Georgia game, we have never seen a performance where they completely lay an egg on the field. It just doesn't happen. But I think I would say the one thing is that there are certain fans who expect perfection. So, they're very quick to point out some of these fourth down decisions. They're very quick to point out, you lost to Washington 3 times over the last 2 years, lost to Oregon State this year. But I'm just going to keep parroting myself. And, there is going to be a learning curve. There has never been a coach in the history of college football, or the NFL for that matter, that comes in year one and is perfect all the way through. It doesn't happen. There's a learning curve that take place.
The GOAT didn't do it.
Right. I'm saying Nick Saban didn't do it. Bill Belichick didn't do it. Kirby Smart didn't do it. I mean, I encourage fans to go look up some of their records the first time they were ever a head coach. Like, it really takes a while to grease the wheels and truly get the program moving, and, yourself as a coach to understand the decisions you're making and how that affects your team and the whole dynamic of that stuff. So I think the one thing is there are certain fans that expect perfection, and they really put some of those decisions under a microscope because they happened against a rival in UW. Like, Oregon fans, it's no secret, we hate Washington. It's fine. It's what makes college football great. It's a wonderful rivalry. Like, I hate Washington as much as the next guy, but I respect the program, and I have to acknowledge that they were very good in the previous 2 years. So, like, for him to make some of these decisions, it's like, I don't want to say it's expected, because I will never expect a poor decision to be made by a coach, but it's like the fact that it happened, I can't be surprised by it. You know what I mean? We just wrapped up year 2. That's it.
Yeah,
Him being a
yeah.
head coach ever. So it's like, I wish people would tamper their expectations just a little bit. I understand there's a standard that they want upheld, myself included. So I'm not saying that, and I'm not even really knocking these fans, because it sucks and it hurts to see some of these things happen. But at the same time, like, if you're going to be that critical, I need you to understand that there's a period of growth that needs to take place before you become that upper echelon coach.
Did you guys play Arizona this year?
Not this year. Nope.
No. See, that would have been a good testament, because they are, there's a lot of transfers over from Arizona with Jeb taking that job to Washington. And I'm not saying like, oh, you beat Arizona, so you're going to beat Washington next year, but it would have been a good comparison of beating the rival. I think that team takes a step back. I think there was a lot of talent there, but they are losing a boatload of talent. The wide receiver core, Penix, some of the DBs are going to the draft. Transfer portal has been pillaged through Bama. I actually saw something the other day on message boards, Washington fans complaining about the pillaging happening of kids going to Alabama. So, which happens everywhere, guys. So, I think that they are going to take a step back, and I think Oregon is going to keep trugging along, and that's the good thing about having a year in year out coach that you can lean on. You guys didn't have to get pillaged, because Lanning didn't go somewhere and open up that portal, and you guys have to reset over.
Yeah, and just one more thing to kind of like reiterate my point here. Year 1, 10 wins and a bowl win over North Carolina. Drake May gonna be a potentially a round 1 pick here. Like,
Yep.
still a very solid team. Year 2, 12 wins. New Year's Six bowl. Like, I understand we played Liberty. Don't get that. That's an entirely different conversation. We've talked about it before on the show that you can only do with what you're dealt on the field. Who's
Yep.
across from you? Like, that's what you have to play. That's the reality of the situation. My point being, from year 1 to year 2, we see growth. And like, if you're an Oregon Duck fan, that's all you want to see. You want to see that continued climb up until one day we can take a look in the mirror and say, we are in the national spotlight. Like, we expect to get to a national championship in some capacity. Yeah. So it's like, there's growth to take place. And, I encourage fans to understand that we are on the right track. It's just a matter of, continuing the progress and, trust it.
Let's go ahead and kind of speak about, obviously the pillaging and kids moving around. Let's go ahead and get into recruiting. Uh, Man, he's been a burner on the trail. Highest class nationally ever in Oregon, correct? With the 2024 class, his first year class, very 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 good. First in the Pac-12, you're first in the Big Ten, or second in the Pac-12, first in the Big Ten this year, and the number one class in school history with the 24, and the 25 is trending upward also.
Yeah, and one thing about the 23 class, I need people to understand as well. Dan Lanning came on board in December. We're talking about a coach, a first-time head coach, moving across the country to Eugene, and you're nabbing the number 2 ranked class and still staying top 10 nationally your first year in a completely different system, a whole new program, a whole new role for Dan Lanning in general.
Different conference.
Right. It's like there is so many moving parts to that. And the fact that he was able to pull in the number 2 ranked class in the pack, and I think they finished number 9 nationally in 23. Don't quote me on it, but I'm pretty sure that's where we sat. Like, that is an amazing feat, and a testament to what Dan Lanning's able to do on the recruiting trail.
Yeah, and my favorite thing about it is like, he's not a powerful head coach. Like, if Kirby Smart decided to leave Georgia and go somewhere else, like, that guy is power drawing a lot of good players. Like, Lanning was upgrading and not taking anybody from his prior. I mean, maybe 1 or 2 kids, but not taking what we're seeing. What is happening with Bama and Washington, Washington and Arizona, like that. He was not a head coach. This is his first time run at it, and usually, we've seen some guys like Lane Kiffin, Tennessee. It didn't work out. Sark didn't work out his first time. There's there's a lot of guys that are great head coaches now. They didn't win a lot their first go around.
Right. And it's like, and that's almost the point that I'm trying to push across to people, I want people to understand, I definitely hear where your criticism's coming from. It's just the fact that like, it's pretty rare to have a first time head coach year
Yeah.
one able to do what he's able to do on the field in the recruiting trail with the coaching staff. Like that's something that doesn't get talked about either. I want people, somebody point out to me where he has failed in putting together a coaching staff. My example here is like year one, he brings in Kenny Dillingham to be an offensive coordinator, right? A lot of people were like, oh, we don't know how that's going to turn out. Like his role at Florida State wasn't as successful. Like at Memphis, it was shaky. He gets to Oregon and they're able to light it up year one, So then Kenny Dillingham accepts a head coaching position at Arizona State. Year two, we bring in Will Stein from UTSA. I hear the same thing. Well, he's coming from UTSA. Like he's never had to play this caliber of competition. Like you just trust the process because we saw what happened. He upgraded year two. If you would have told me year one that 2024 Will Stein offense was going to top a Kenny Dillingham offense from 23, I would have been shocked. And it's exactly what we've seen. Defensive side of the ball been absolutely phenomenal. Special teams been phenomenal. Like grad assistants. I mean, people don't talk about that a lot. It's like he's been successful and he's having these GAs that are moving up and accepting high level positions at all these other Power 5 programs. So it's like he's just constantly instilling the growth in the people that are under him to it. So it's like I don't see a fault in Dan Lanning to this point. Aside from the obvious, little hiccups on the field that's going to happen, like we just addressed. He's been a phenomenal coach for this university.
Yeah, and when you say grad assistants, that's how people start building that tree. The Saban tree, the Leach tree, there's guys with connected with everywhere with those programs, and Lanning is starting to build a tree of himself. And it seems like everywhere that it seems like he's kind of striking gold for a lot of guys, and that's going to bring in some guys that maybe had some good play callers that had some bumps in the road. Bama survived on coaches that you know had bumps in the road, got fired midseason because whatever domestic violence or DUI or something. I mean, Bama for a long time was like the savior of wayward kids for coaches, was it not?
You're not going to hear an argument out of myself. That's a fact.
So it seems like everything that he touches is going to gold if you're getting grad assistants going to Power 5 programs. Let's go ahead and talk about this transfer portal and what he's done the last 2 years in it, and the amount of talent that he's brought in. Bo Nix obviously took a giant upgrade going to that offense. We called him Bo Picks in the SEC because he was not good at Auburn. I don't think that throwing a true freshman in anyway is a good idea. And ever since then, it was kind of just a downhill spiral. Need a new place, and now he's going to be first, second, third round quarterback in the draft. Tez Johnson, another one. Then you go out the next year and you get two quarterbacks, Dylan Gabriel from Oklahoma, a very, very, very proven commodity, and wants to take one more step. I think he knows that Oklahoma is not in a spot going into the SEC and to win a national championship now. I think that's what he's wanting, to get a deep playoff run. And then you have the UCLA quarterback, Dante Moore.
Yeah, and it's like for the transfer portal stuff, it's like it's kind of a similar aspect where we see it across the country, various programs where you have these high caliber players who transfer to a different program, and they don't meet the expectations of the fan base, of the coaching staff. Their play on the field doesn't match what they were expecting in the off season. It's been
Yeah.
the complete opposite for Dan Lanning and damn near everybody he's brought in. I have a hard time right now just thinking about somebody who he brought in and it was a true failure in terms of like the project of bringing him into this program. You got names Bo Nix, Bucky Irving from Minnesota, Tez Johnson came from Troy. Kyrie Jackson got kicked out of Alabama for off-field issues, and all of a sudden we're talking about him being a potential second, third round pick. He was our CB1 this last year. Jordan Birch, he was a 5-star kid at South Carolina. He was okay there, but it's like he never really blossomed to his full potential. He gets out to Eugene and the fan base loves him because he does, he took that next step and like became that force of the defense. So it's like, and these aren't even everybody, I'm just kind of highlighting some of the bigger, more well-known names. It's like the fact that he's bringing these in, and he's not just bringing them in and expecting them to do his thing. He's bringing in them and he's truly developing these kids into what he needs for them to be in this program. And he's been very successful in doing so at almost every position on the field.
Yeah, and for me, I think the turnaround with the quarterback position with Bo Nix. Um, Bo Nix had zero draft capital before he got to Oregon, and he has groomed him, and the quarterback coach there and the offensive coordinator has groomed him to where he's going to be an NFL guy. And then what that does is it just brings in quarterbacks that Dylan Gabriel, a very suitable quarterback, and I think is really going to light it up in Oregon. But you're going to get top flight transfer portal guys and high school guys because if you can develop a quarterback, having an elite quarterback will win you a lot of games. And
100%.
I'm not saying Bo Nix is the best quarterback to ever throw a pass on the college field. I'm just saying they took a guy that couldn't get it done at Auburn with that Auburn scheme. His dad played there. That just he said that he had severe anxiety, mental health issues before he transferred. They gave him a fresh start. So you take a guy like Dylan Gabriel that doesn't have that aired it out, scoring 40, 50, 60 points a game at Oklahoma. I mean, and you give him better weapons. I think offensively, Oregon's better suited offensively than what Oklahoma was. Boy, oh boy, watch out.
Yeah, and I'll just touch on Bo Nix for a second. I know when he came in, and I want to preface this by saying myself included. I'm not perfect. There's going to be opinions that I have that are absolutely not correct. So I will start by saying that. I don't claim to be perfect, but when Bo Nix came in, that was one where I was like, "This is who we're bringing in. We're bringing in Bo Nix from the
Yep.
same Bo Nix who got booed out of Auburn." And
Yep.
it's like, it was truly the Bo move. Obviously myself, 99.9% of Duck Nation, they fell in love with Bo. He's a wonderful human being, first and foremost. Wonderful guy, does a lot for his community, very well spoken, very kind person in general. But what he was able to do on the field once he got there, it's like it was very evident very quickly that step that he was able to take to the next level. And then in year two, it's like, when he announced he was coming back for a second year to Oregon, it's like he took another step, so
Yeah.
he went from zero draft capital to we're talking a potential first round pick here. I know there's a little argument there as to where he's going to go, but that's not even my point. My point being, he went from probably being an undrafted player scraping for a roster spot to all of a sudden there's real
Maybe.
NFL teams. Yeah, there's real NFL teams that are looking at this saying he could be our franchise guy. And it's like, that's an incredible turnaround. And then, you transition to Dylan Gabriel. I would argue that he has more weapons this year than Bo Nix has had in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Troy Franklin was all-world talent for Oregon. Wonderful player. I'm not trying to diminish his value by any stretch, but it's like, it's more the depth that he has and the potential of a guy like Evan Stewart on top of the Tez Johnsons, the Trayshawn Holdens, the Gary Bryant Juniors, and that's just the Jurion Dickies, who was a top 5 wide receiver in last year's class. It's like he has weapons out there who he could really make himself a name here. And, the fact that this offensive line coming into this year is arguably the damn near the same offensive line that was last year that allowed the fewest sacks in the nation to the quarterback. He's going to have time. He has more weapons. He's a little more mobile than Bo Nix was, which bodes really well in an Oregon Duck offense. So I don't want to put expectations out there for fans that Dylan Gabriel is going to be better than Bo Nix, but I just want people to understand there's a real chance that this offense is even upgraded again in year 3 under Dan Lanning from, the previous 2 years in Bo Nix.
Yeah, you say that with Bo Nix. I felt that with Mertz coming to Florida. I'm like, we got that guy. I watched every my dad's a UW University of Wisconsin, not UW, but the real UW University of Wisconsin. He's a grad there, booster, not a giant big time booster, but donates quite a bit of money and he was like, boy, you guys aren't gonna win nothing with that guy. He's terrible. But you take him and you put him in the right offensive scheme, and I'm not saying Florida won a bunch of games, but you saw flashes of it. Like this kid can play, and you wonder how many guys just get trapped in that bad scheme, bad players around them, bad offensive coordinator. They all it takes is, I mean, these guys live and die off of that mojo that they have, and they have a couple bad games now. Now you're getting ragged on Twitter, and people can at you and at your family, and the next thing you know, you're getting booed out of the stadium. You wonder what that fresh step for Bo Nix and a lot of quarterbacks that were not great. Spencer Rattler, another one, that was booed out of Oklahoma. And you just wonder, like, that little bit of fresh breathing room of resetting the the focus, the moral focus and mental focus, what that does for a kid. But yeah, definitely a good one. Um, and you know, the great thing about Lanning is when you have success in recruiting, you're winning games, and you have success on getting players through the transfer portal and then producing. It builds the factor that, listen, I can go to Oregon and I can produce. Correct.
Yeah, it sets a name for himself. So, for example, Bo came, he was able to make that leap from what he was. He was a shell of himself at Auburn, comes to Oregon, widely successful in his first 2 years there. You don't think if Bo Nix came here and flopped that we're landing both Dylan Gabriel and Dante Moore in this portal cycle? That's not happening. They're going to take a look at that and say, well, I could go there. I could be the next project. I could see what happens. No, they were able to take a look at what Bo Nix did and that progression that he made, getting that fresh start, and say, I can be that, I can be that dude to come in there, make a name for myself, put myself on the national spotlight, give myself an opportunity to play in some college football playoffs and do X, Y, and Z. So it did a lot for Bo Nix as a person. It did a lot more for the University of Oregon going forward.
Yeah. So I'm gonna tell you, great show we had here for you guys. Let's go ahead and wrap it up. And got anything to say? Got some stuff coming down the pipe, the horizon for the Oregon channel.
Yeah, absolutely. So, make sure everybody's staying tuned in. I know we have another show coming. I believe it'll be released on Monday. We'll be really diving into the 25 class. I know we've prefaced it on a couple of shows talking about how there's potential there for this to be an even better class. Well, I think we're going to start to dive in there and see what that could potentially look like. So if you're, I know there's a lot of Duck fans interested in recruiting. Absolutely be sure to tune in there. And then, going forward, we absolutely have some more content coming this week as well. So I encourage you guys to absolutely subscribe, keep liking the videos, commenting. You guys are doing a phenomenal job helping myself and the High Top brand grow in general. So I really appreciate each and every one of you, but definitely encourage you to keep subscribing, checking in. We have a ton of great content coming for you guys.
Yeah, definitely gonna. I think we're gonna get you on a your wins and losses. What you think Oregon's gonna do, right?
So that's one. I think it's going to be a pretty polarizing show, to say the least. I know there's going to be some people who are like, "Oh yeah, that could be," and then there's going to be some people who have some choice words for me there. So definitely tune in there, see what I think our 2024 season is going to look like. The good, the bad, the ugly. I'm excited to hear it all from you guys. So definitely be sure to tune into that. That should be coming once again at some point this work week. So yeah, keep an eye on the Oregon channel. Turn your notifications on because we have some great content coming for you guys.
Yeah. All right, Derek. We will we'll wrap it up right here. I am Cody, the professor. Go ahead, like, subscribe to all the High Top channels. Go check out the brand new High Top. We got a website. We're gonna link in there, and you can get into the Discord if you decide to become a member there. You get into the Discord. Derek's got a Discord already set up. We don't have Duck fans yet, but we'd love to get you in there. And we'll get Derek in there, and he'll drop little recruiting nuggets and stuff like that. He's very connected. Go ahead and follow the High Top Oregon page, like he said, and all the other High Top pages. We're growing, and we're really just going along. But I am Cody the Professor. Derek,
And I'm Derek, everybody. Go Ducks.
we'll see you later.